connected with a community of nearly 200 Americans, Canadians and Jamaicans who she says have mostly migrated here in the last 5 years. Marceau Narcisse from Chicago has just visited American friends living in Ghana and Nigeria. He says he'd prefer to move here for good roads, faster internet and the weather.
It's very moderate, the temperature. It's not too far from the beach, which I do like.
Something strange is happening in the United States. Something big, something quiet, and something the American government never expected to confront. If you walk through certain neighborhoods in Atlanta, Houston, Los Angeles, or Chicago today, you will notice it. Empty homes, moving trucks, entire apartment blocks with more for rent signs than residents. The strangest part? Nobody is talking about it on mainstream news. No press conferences, no public warnings, just silence while the people disappear. But it is not a disappearance. It is a movement. A movement the West never imagined would accelerate this fast. Americans, especially Black Americans, are leaving the United States permanently. Not for Canada, not for Europe, not for Latin America. They are boarding one-way flights heading east, past the Atlantic, past the equator, landing in Nairobi, Mombasa, Accra, Kigali, and Dar es Salaam. The world cannot believe why U.S. cities are emptying out day by day. Why are thousands walking away from a country that once marketed itself as the greatest nation on earth? Why are entire families selling their belongings, quitting their jobs, cashing out savings, and flying to a continent they were once told to fear? And the reason behind this exodus? A nightmare for the United States, a revelation for Africa, a plot twist for history. Because for the first time in 400 years, Black Americans are not being taken out of Africa. They are returning to it. Not as victims, not as refugees, not as tourists, but as chosen sons and daughters answering a call that was buried beneath centuries of pain. So how did this start? What triggered this reverse migration? And how many Americans are landing in Kenya every single day? In this video, let's find out. To understand why thousands of Black Americans now envision Kenya as more than just a travel destination, you must begin with the mental environment they are leaving behind. It's an environment defined not by dramatic events, but by a quiet, constant pressure that wears the spirit down. Being Black in America is not simply a matter of income or geography. It is about living with a background of vigilance that never quite fades. People often compare it to navigating life with 30 mental tabs open at all times. One for the latest police shooting video, another for political debates that determine basic rights, another for workplace microaggressions, and another for the unexpected shift in a stranger's tone that could alter an entire day. Even in moments of calm, there is a readiness, a tension that has become second nature. Every day, decisions carry this weight. Walking into a store becomes an exercise in scanning for suspicion. Entering a meeting triggers the familiar thought, am I the only one here who looks like me? Raising a child means worrying not only about education, but also about whether their teacher's biases will silently shape their confidence. Even the most routine experience, a traffic stop, a neighbor's glance, a conversation overheard, carries the potential for misinterpretation or escalation. Over time, the body absorbs this stress. Shoulders rise a little higher, breaths shorten a little quicker, and sleep grows lighter. And because this tension is woven into daily life, many forget it is abnormal. It simply becomes the atmosphere they breathe. But this illusion often shatters the moment they step out of the United States. All it takes is a trip abroad, like a conference in Nairobi, a vacation in Ghana, or a brief remote work stay in Tanzania. Once the plane lands and the surroundings settle, the contrast is jarring. In Nairobi, no one stares when a Black American enters a cafe. No one clutches their bag or scans them suspiciously. No one demands that they carry the burden of representing their entire race. They become, for the first time in years, sometimes decades, just a person living an ordinary day. The silence that surrounds them is not emptiness. It is peace. A peace so foreign that many initially struggle to trust it. And once the nervous system recognizes that it can finally rest, the brain begins to ask dangerous questions. If I can experience this here, why must I tolerate the constant stress back home? Suddenly, remaining in the United States no longer feels like an unquestioned destiny. It becomes an option, one option among many. This realization marks the quiet beginning of reverse migration. It does not start with government incentives or glossy brochures. It begins with a moment of clarity, the understanding that the stress one assumed was part of human life is actually specific to a particular system and entirely avoidable. Once that emotional crack appears, something deeper begins to move beneath the surface, something tied not to money or convenience, but to identity itself. For generations, one of the most painful scars Black Americans carried was disconnection. They grew up knowing that they descended from African peoples, yet lacked the specifics. Which country? Which tribe? Which ancestors? Which stories? Their history was interrupted, severed, and reduced to a timeline that begins with captivity. Everything before that was blurred by centuries of silence. But in recent years, that silence has begun to lift. DNA tests revealed geographic roots. Documentaries uncovered lost narratives. Global travel became more accessible. Social media connected diaspora communities with voices from the continent. Suddenly, Africa wasn't a shapeless idea. It became a map of real places, like Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, Cameroon, Tanzania, each offering a window into culture, language, rhythm, and memory. The Year of Return in Ghana accelerated this awakening by inviting the diaspora to physically reconnect with the continent. Over 500 people, many Black Americans, were granted citizenship in a single ceremony. It was a symbolic reversal of history, a gesture that said, "Your story did not end in chains. It continues here." Kenya's magnetism works a bit differently, but no less powerfully. Nairobi doesn't only speak to the past, it speaks to the present. It doesn't merely say, "Here is where your ancestors came from." It says, "Here is where you can finally breathe." Nairobi offers the strange, comforting blend of the familiar and the new, with modern tech hubs, reliable internet, quality schools, busy banks, and vibrant nightlife, all wrapped in a cultural atmosphere that feels emotionally recognizable even to those who have never lived on the continent. The food tastes like a cousin of soul food. The music hits rhythms that resonate in the body before the brain names them. Elders in markets resemble grandparents whose stories were never passed down, yet whose faces feel like home. Many describe this sensation as a spiritual déjà vu, not logical, but undeniable. It is the merging of heritage and possibility, a place where the past and future do not compete, but harmonize. This blend is what makes Kenya more than an ancestral curiosity. It becomes a real, livable home where Black identity exists without tension, debate, or justification, not an idea, but a lived daily reality. Once identity and peace become real considerations, one more factor enters the conversation: economics. And this is where many Americans feel their perspectives shift dramatically. In cities like Atlanta, Los Angeles, or New York, the rising cost of living has turned even middle-class life into a balancing act. Rent alone can swallow half a salary, especially when apartments costing $2,000 or more offer nothing exceptional. Add the costs of healthcare, car insurance, childcare, groceries, and basic survival, and even financially stable individuals live in a state of low-grade panic. Life looks stable from the outside, but feels like barely staying afloat. Then comes the comparison with Nairobi. With the same amount of money, a person can secure a modern apartment with security, a balcony view, gym access, and a swimming pool, at a fraction of the cost. Fresh food is abundant and close to natural. Healthy eating is no longer an expensive lifestyle choice, but something woven into everyday living. Occasional household help becomes affordable, making life more manageable. Transportation options are plentiful without requiring crushing car payments. People speak openly about their expenses for the first time, not with frustration, but with relief. This is when the decision stops being emotional and becomes mathematical. For remote workers earning in dollars or euros, the economic difference becomes striking. A pension that barely sustains life in the US can support a comfortable lifestyle in Nairobi. A freelancer's income stretches further. A retiree's savings gain new life. Suddenly, the logic flips. Staying in the US becomes the financially irrational choice, and the appeal deepens when people discover Nairobi's expanding economy. The city's nickname, Silicon Savannah, reflects its growing tech sector, bustling startup scene, and innovative mobile money systems like M-Pesa. For Black Americans who felt stalled in the rigid corporate structures of the United States, Kenya offers room to build. Entrepreneurs are opening cafes, schools, solar companies, relocation agencies, digital firms, and Airbnbs, not as dreams, but as functioning realities. Kenya is not just cheaper, it is fertile ground for growth. Yet even with better finances and emotional peace, another layer emerges, one that touches the core of human experience: belonging. America's individualism means that people can live within inches of each other and still feel profoundly alone. Entire apartment buildings full of people operate in silent isolation. Add racial tension, and the loneliness amplifies. For many Black Americans, social life in the US often oscillates between being unseen or hyperseen, either invisible in institutions or overly visible in moments of scrutiny. Kenya stands in direct contrast. Community is not extracurricular, it is structural. People notice when you arrive. They notice when you are gone. They check in out of genuine care. You are remembered at shops, greeted on the street, and included in the natural rhythm of neighborhood life. When something goes wrong, a car breaks down, or someone falls ill, help usually arrives long before authorities do. It's not just hospitality, it's a cultural instinct. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. For someone who spent their life being the only one in the room, blending into a majority Black society becomes profoundly healing. You cease being the exception or the spokesperson. You stop adjusting your tone and body language to avoid misinterpretation. You no longer carry the burden of representing an entire race. You return to simply being yourself, an ordinary human in a community that mirrors you. Many describe this as the most powerful transformation Kenya offers. Interestingly, what began quietly with individual travelers soon evolved into a structured movement. Relocation services appeared, not run by foreign agencies, but by Black Americans who had already made the transition and now help others follow. One of the most prominent voices in this space is Adela Mohammed, who moved to Kenya seeking peace after her mother's death. The healing she found inspired her to help others claim that same peace. Her relocation company assists families with everything from housing and furniture shopping to setting up bank accounts and navigating healthcare. She notes that at least 15 families have already moved through her network, with many more scheduled, some as far ahead as 2026, without fixed dates, simply committed to leaving the US behind. Entrepreneurs like Kenneth Harris and digital creators like Austin Holloman add depth to this movement. They didn't come to escape failure. They came to pursue the possibility. Harris built an Airbnb business and enjoys a lifestyle he couldn't dream of in Atlanta. Holloman chose Kenya because the social fabric feels intact in a way America no longer does. These individuals are not anomalies. They represent the formation of a diaspora ecosystem, like WhatsApp communities, local partnerships, school recommendations, mentorship networks, and new businesses woven into Kenyan society. The movement is not about creating a mini America. It is about melting into the Kenyan landscape, while bringing global experience that enriches both sides. As this movement grows, it forces an uncomfortable conversation within the U.S. What does it mean when Black Americans willingly leave the country their ancestors helped build? For generations, the U.S. used its land of opportunity narrative as a global advertisement. But when its own citizens leave for better opportunities elsewhere, especially in Africa, that story begins to collapse. Interestingly, the people leaving are not unskilled. They include professionals, entrepreneurs, creatives, retired military personnel, digital workers, and families with stable incomes. Each departure represents not just demographic loss, but intellectual and cultural loss. Public policy experts warn that this reverse migration undermines the American myth at its core. If people are not leaving for European luxury, but for African belonging, what does that say about the emotional conditions of life in America? Yet instead of confronting these questions, much of the U.S. establishment continues its cycles of denial. Rather than addressing racial trauma, housing crises, political instability, or rising inequality, the system watches quietly as people leave. For those departing, the choice is not driven by resentment. It is driven by exhaustion. Loyalty is replaced by clarity. On the other side of the migration, Kenya and other African nations are benefiting in meaningful ways. Black Americans arriving in Nairobi often bring savings, global networks, professional skills, business ideas, and international exposure. They open companies, employ locals, and introduce new practices across industries like tourism, tech, media, education, agriculture, and hospitality. This infusion of talent and capital stimulates Kenya's economy in real time. But beyond economics, reverse migration is reshaping Africa's global image. For decades, the continent was portrayed by Western media as a place people fled. Now it is becoming a place people seek for peace, opportunity, and fulfillment. The symbolism is profound, a historical reversal where the descendants of enslaved Africans return not in chains, but by choice. They are not coming to repair the past, but to build the future their ancestors were denied. This is not charity, it is synergy. Kenya offers what many seek, like affordability, community, safety, cultural alignment, and a sense of home. In return, diaspora returnees bring innovation, international networks, and a global mindset that accelerates development. This partnership is quietly rewriting Africa's narrative on the world stage. Ultimately, whether someone relocates or not, the most significant transformation is psychological. Black Americans now know they have options. They are no longer trapped inside a narrative that says they must endure the limitations of the U.S., because that is the best the world can offer. The existence of thriving Black communities in Nairobi, Accra, Kigali, and beyond opens up new possibilities for identity, family, and future. And options create power. Power creates leverage, and leverage inspires change. Some will move permanently. Others will build lives across continents. Still others will stay in America, but with a renewed understanding that their destiny is not confined to one country. For those who do choose Kenya, the move is rarely about running away. It is about stepping into a life where dignity, opportunity, and belonging coexist. When people say America is getting empty, what they truly mean is that people are stepping out of survival mode and into a future that finally feels like living. Because once someone experiences a place where their humanity is unquestioned and their spirit feels at ease, returning to the old pressure becomes the strangest idea of all. Do you think the American dream is collapsing? Or are Black Americans finally realizing it was never built for them in the first place? If you had the chance to live a safer, calmer, more affordable life in Kenya, would you take it? Or do you still believe America can change? In the comment section, tell us, would you ever raise your children in Africa so they can grow up without racial trauma? Or does staying in America still feel necessary for you? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.